Hello and welcome to Phoenix TV. It's great to have you here. In this empowering episode of Breaking the Ceiling, What People Think of You is None of Your Business, we'll dive deep into one of life's most liberating truths, that your worth isn't defined by anyone else's opinion. Through raw reflection, real-life examples, and mindset-shifting insights, we'll explore why we give so much power to outside judgment and how to finally break free from it. You'll discover how to let go of people-pleasing, silence self-doubt, and build unshakable confidence to live your life on your own terms. With practical tools and heartfelt wisdom, this episode reminds us that authenticity is your greatest strength, and that peace comes when you stop seeking validation and start trusting yourself. When you no longer depend on others to define who you are, you step into your power and become unstoppable. Hi, I'm your host, Corinne Brown, Leadership Results Coach. Welcome back to Breaking the Ceiling. Today we're talking about one of the most freeing yet often hardest truths to live by. What people think of you is none of your business. For so much of our lives, we've been wired to seek approval. We crave being liked, accepted, and validated, and that's only human. But somewhere along the way, that need for approval can quietly take control. It starts guiding our decisions, shaping our identity, and even silencing our truth. I know this one runs deep because I've lived it. There were times when I made choices not because they were true for me, but because I was afraid of what others might think if I didn't. And you know what? That's not freedom. That's fear disguised as belonging. But in reality, the desire for approval is rooted in our biology. Our brains are wired for connection and safety. When we sense disapproval or rejection, the same part of the brain that processes physical pain lights up. That's why criticism can feel like a punch to the gut. But here's where the shift happens. You are no longer that child seeking safety in someone else's approval. You're an adult with agency, with power, with choice. And when you realize that someone else's opinion doesn't pay your bills or heal your heart or build your dreams, you start reclaiming your freedom. So how do we actually stop caring what others think? It's not about switching it off overnight. It's about reconditioning your mind. Here are a few ways to start. Separate opinion from truth. Someone's opinion of you is simply their perspective. It's filtered through their experiences and not a reflection of your worth. Return to your values. When you're anchored in what matters most to you, not what others expect, you become unshakable. Watch your inner dialogue, because often the loudest critic isn't them. It's the voice we've internalized over time. Start noticing it, then gently challenge it. Practical, radical self-trust. Every time you choose what feels right over what looks right, you strengthen your inner confidence. Here's something to think about. When you spend your life trying to control what others think of you, you lose sight of who you truly are. You don't need to be liked by everyone to live a meaningful life. You just need to like yourself. And the moment you release the grip of needing validation, that's when your authenticity starts to shine. That's when people are drawn to you, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. So the next time someone has an opinion about you, pause, take a breath, and remind yourself that's theirs to carry, not yours. Because what people think of you truly is none of your business. Your business is being true to who you are. Now let's take a deep dive into how to let go of others' opinions. Here are 5 ways to do that. Number 1 is the mirror test. Whose reflection are you seeing each morning? Look into the mirror and ask yourself, am I showing up today as who I truly am or who I think others want me to be? This question creates awareness of where transformation begins. You'll start noticing where you shrink, where you shift, or silence yourself to meet others' expectations, and where you can begin reclaiming your truth. Reframe that story. When you catch yourself worrying about what someone thinks, pause and ask yourself, what am I afraid this opinion means about me? Then reframe it. Their opinion doesn't define your value, it simply reflects their perspective. This separates your identity from their judgment, a powerful step towards emotional freedom. And anchor into your values. Write down your top 3 core values, the principles that guide how you want to live and lead. Whatever fear or judgment arises, come back to these values. They act as your compass, reminding you that alignment is more important than approval. Build your self-validation muscle. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you're proud of, whether it be decisions, boundaries, or moments where you honoured yourself. This simple practice rewires the brain to seek internal validation instead of external approval. Over time, you'll notice you no longer need the applause. Your own self-approval will be enough. And protect your energy. Not every opinion deserves access to your peace. When criticism comes, ask yourself, does this person live a life I'd want to emulate? If not, thank them silently and simply move on. Protecting your energy isn't arrogance, it's self-respect. Here's something to reflect on. Think of one area in your life where you've been dimming your light to avoid judgment. What would change if you allowed yourself to show up fully without apology? So the question then is, so why do we care so much about what others think? Before we can release the need for approval, we have to understand why and why it's there in the first place. Well, this isn't just about insecurity or low confidence. It's actually hardwired into our biology. From the moment we're born, our survival depends on belonging. As children, we learn very early that being accepted, loved, and approved of equals safety. If we pleased the adults around us, smiled, behaved, achieved, we were praised. If we didn't, we risked rejection, disappointment, or disconnection. And the brain, in its brilliant way, learned that approval means love, and love means survival. That same wiring carries into adulthood. So when someone disapproves of us, criticizes us, or doesn't like us, even if it's subtle, our nervous system can't interpret that as a threat. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight response, activates. Suddenly, we're not responding logically, we're reacting emotionally. That's why it can seem so uncomfortable when we think someone might not like us or when we feel misunderstood. But here's the truth. You are no longer that child seeking approval to feel safe. You're an adult who has the power to create your own sense of belonging from the inside out. When you start validating yourself and rewire that old pattern, your nervous system begins to associate self-trust with safety instead of other people's approval. You start realizing that your value isn't up for public debate, it's something you decide every single day. So if you find yourself worrying about what others think, be gentle with yourself. It's not weakness, it's conditioning. And every time you catch it, breathe through it and choose your truth anyway. You're breaking the pattern. The need for approval comes from a time when we didn't know we had the power to approve of others. But now we do. You can give yourself permission you've been waiting for, because when you stop needing to be understood by everyone, you finally become free to be yourself. Let's talk about the difference between accepting approval from the people who care about us and listening to the voices that tell us we're not good enough. Because not all feedback is harmful and not all validation is bad. We need connection. We thrive on support. We all want to be seen, valued, and appreciated, especially by the people we love and respect. Healthy approval and kind that uplifts and encourages can reinforce our confidence. It sounds like, I'm proud of you, or I see how hard you've worked. It's rooted in love, not control. It comes from people who want to see you grow, not shrink. But the problem begins when we start confusing healthy approval with dependent validation. When our self-worth starts to rely on external opinions, we give away our power. We start chasing approval like oxygen, and before long, we're gasping for air in someone else's world. But here's the truth. It's perfectly okay to receive approval, but it's not okay to need it to feel whole. The voices that tell you you're not good enough, those don't belong to you. They're just echoes, echoes of the past, of criticism, of comparison, of rejection, moments where you were made to believe that love had to be earned. But love and worth are not performance-based. They are intrinsic. You don't have to approve who you are to deserve acceptance, especially your own. From a neuroscience perspective, our brain actually lights up differently when we receive support versus when we feel judged. When we're genuinely affirmed, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is released. It makes us feel safe, connected, and motivated. But when we're criticised or compared, cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes, putting us into self-protection mode. So the key is learning to discern. And ask yourself, is this feedback coming from love or from someone's need to control or define me? If it's love, receive it. Let it fill your heart. If it's not, release it and let it go. You don't need to carry someone else's projection of you and who you should be. The more you strengthen your sense of self, the easier it becomes to tell the difference between genuine care and conditional acceptance. Approval from others sounds and should feel like sunlight, something that warms you, not something you need to survive. So keep listening, not to the voices that say you're not good enough, but to the truth inside you that's been whispering all along, you always were. Here's my guided reflection to help you release the voices that hold you back. Before we close today, I want to take a few moments with you to slow down, to breathe, and come back to yourself. If you can, find a quiet space. Let your shoulders drop. Take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. Now bring to mind the voices that you often hear in moments of doubt, the ones that whisper, "You're not enough." Maybe they sound like someone from your past, a parent, a teacher, a friend, or even your own inner critic. Don't judge them, just notice them. And now ask yourself, whose voice is this really? Is it someone who truly knows my heart? Or is it a voice I've carried for too long, one that no longer deserves a say in who I am? Let that question sit for a moment. And as you breathe, imagine gently placing your voice outside of you, not to fight it, but to release it. Because it's not your truth. It's just a story someone once told you and you've outgrown it. Now take another deep breath. This time, call in the voices that do see you, the ones that lift you up, encourage you, and remind you of your worth. Let their words fill your mind. Feel the warmth of that love and believe and let it wash through you. And finally, listen for the quietest voice of all, your own. It's been there all along, waiting to be heard. What does it want to tell you? Maybe it says, "I'm proud of you. You're safe now. You don't need anyone's permission to be who you are." Let those words land. Because this is the voice you get to trust moving forward. You are not defined by the opinions that once made you question your worth. You are defined by the courage to keep coming home to yourself again and again. So the next time those old voices return, just smile gently and say, "Thank you, but I'm choosing me now." Take one more deep breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Welcome back to you. Here's my final thought. When you stop worrying about what people think, you make space for who you were always meant to become. Freedom begins when you stop editing yourself from the comfort of others and start standing tall in your truth. Thank you for joining me today on Breaking the Ceiling. It's been so good to have you here. Until next time, remember, your power lies in being unapologetically you. I'm Corinne Brown. Catch you on the flip side.